Billy Joel, age 76, is no stranger to performing, to touring, to the rush of stage lights, and the roar of a crowd singing back his lyrics. But earlier in 2025, something shifted. He revealed a diagnosis that shook fans: normal pressure hydrocephalus, or NPH. It's a condition in which excess cerebrospinal fluid builds up in the brain's ventricles. Over time, that fluid can press on delicate tissues, messing with balance, hearing, vision, walking, even thinking. In May, he postponed or outright canceled concerts. As the symptoms worsened, hearing problems, vision troubles, his balance was thrown off. He even described the sensation as being on a boat, unsteady, rocked by waves he can't quite see. But here's the twist in the story. Despite the scary medical words, Billy Joel says he's doing okay. Not perfect, not like nothing is wrong, but he pushed back on the dire image. He said that the term brain disorder makes it sound worse than he is feeling. He said, "My balance sucks. It's like being on a boat." But he also added, "I feel good." So already in 2025, there is this tension. The man who built his life touring, pushing rhythm and melody through every corner of his body, now having to pause, in a sense, and focus on what his body is telling him. Let's step back. Family. Because for Billy Joel, the music, the fame, the homes, they all weave in with family in ways that neither he nor the public can pull apart. Joel has had several marriages. His first was to Elizabeth Weber. She was more than a spouse. At times, his manager, his muse, the inspiration for some of his early romantic songs. They tied the knot in 1973. Later marriages include Christy Brinkley, with whom he had his daughter Alexa Ray Joel back in 1985, and Alexis Roderick, his current wife. Alexa Ray Joel is hugely important in his life. She's a musician herself now, carving out her own voice. When Billy looks at legacy, his daughter is part of it, not just in blood, but in art, in memory, in the continuity of music. As he confronts what may or may not come in his future, family anchors him. The documentary Billy Joel, and So It Goes, shows that more than once. The strain, the support, the regrets, the triumphs. Billy Joel, in public interviews, has been open about the darker parts of his journey, his depressive periods, his struggles with alcohol, even suicide attempts in his earlier years. These are not stories he engineered for sympathy. They are parts of the mosaic: pain, yes, but also resilience. Because as his health story in 2025 unfolds, those earlier trials give context, the toughness, the ability to keep going. Now, where he lives, the homes, the estates, Billy Joel is a collector not just of songs, but of places that feel like sanctuaries or symbols. In Long Island, New York, he has an estate called Middlesea, on Center Island, 26 acres. Multiple homes, a private beach. That estate has been on and off the market, a price tag in the tens of millions. He also once owned a grand property in Manalapan, Florida. That Florida mansion made headlines not just for size and luxury, but for what it said about moving parts of life. The sun, the water, the idea of warmth and retreat play roles. Some of those Florida properties he has sold. Others he held: the oceanfront balcony, private docks, landscaped grounds. These are more than luxury. For someone like Joel, they are part of the canvas of his identity. On Long Island, the homes are equally impressive. Middlesea is just one. He has had glass houses, waterfront estates, guest houses, helipads, the kind of places where light and water become part of daily life. And talk about scale. One of his Long Island homes, his main estate, was listed for $29.9 million at one point, this after cutting price significantly. It's not just real estate. These are statements. Places to rest, places to write, places to remember. What about cars? There is less public verified detail about his car collection in 2025. Billy Joel has long enjoyed the lifestyle that allows comfort and luxury. But when it comes to specifics, which models he drives, what he keeps, what he cherishes, the public record is sparse. Some interviews note that he has appreciated nice things, but always the music comes first. If he's got beautiful cars, they're likely well maintained. Classic, comfortable, not ostentatious, show. But that's speculation. What we do know is that his wealth has allowed him homes and mobility. Cars are part of that, even if not the headline. Legacy. This is the part that hums in the background. Even when Joel is talking about homes or diagnoses or concerts. Because he's been writing songs for more than 50 years now. Hits like Piano Man, Uptown Girl, We Didn't Start the Fire, New York State of Mind. These aren't just chart toppers. Many of them are touchstones, memory markers. They're played at weddings, at bars, late nights, times of reflection. They are part of the soundtrack of people's lives. In 2025, he released a documentary, Billy Joel, and So It Goes. 2 parts, 5 hours. A deep dive. It gives fans a rare, almost unvarnished view. The joys and the regrets. The early days, the sudden fame, the losses, the relationships, and yes, his vulnerabilities. The documentary premiered at Tribeca. And while Joel himself didn't attend the first showing because of his health diagnosis, his life was laid out in full. Let's return to the health struggle. because this isn't just a side chapter, it might shape the final acts of the Joel story. Normal pressure hydrocephalus is treatable, but it requires time, care, and honestly, humility. The cancellations of shows hurt the fans, the venues, the crew, but Joel's team has said that the concerts were making symptoms worse as hearing, vision, balance, all took a hit during performances. So he was advised to stop, to rest, to undergo physical therapy. He fell on stage earlier in the year, February 2025, during a performance in Connecticut. That fall became a wake-up call for many. Maybe this can't go on the way it has. He recovered, but the shadow of what might come lingered. In interviews, Joel has emphasized he's not giving up, just adapting. He's grateful for the care he's getting. He's committed to prioritizing health. And even in vulnerability, we hear strength. A man who's seen highs others can only dream of. Now saying, I feel okay. He keeps pushing back on the idea that he's going to fade quietly. He wants the music, the legacy, to stay loud. What might the future hold? A return to the stage someday? Perhaps, but likely under new terms. Fewer shows? Shorter ones? More breaks? Maybe more focus on studio work or collaborations rather than full tours. The documentary suggests he's looking inward as much as outward, reflecting, remembering, possibly composing from a place of limitation. For his family, that means leaning more on those closest to him. His wife? His daughter? His circle? For his fans, well, they'll keep listening. They'll accept that some voices tremble, some steps are unsteady, but the heart of the music remains. For the estates and homes, perhaps some will be sold or scaled back. The cost of maintenance, of taxes, of physical upkeep for grand houses is huge. Already, his Long Island main home was reduced in asking price. Real estate can be both a solace and a burden. True for many, especially for someone in Joel's position. In the end, the legacy of Billy Joel is not just a museum of greatest hits and platinum records. It's a living, breathing, shifting force. Still unfolding even in 2025. What makes this story powerful is not only what he has already done, but what he is doing now. We are watching a man at the height of his cultural immortality, yet also facing the frailties that come for every human being, no matter how many arenas they have sold out. We are witnessing a legend confronting decline but refusing to be defined by it. There is dignity in admitting vulnerability. There's power in saying, I may never be the same, but I'm still here, in a world obsessed with youth and constant performance. Billy Joel's story becomes almost revolutionary. A world-famous artist who dares to slow down, to be candid, to acknowledge that the stage lights sometimes dim, but the song remains. When people think of Billy Joel, they remember the piano first. That elegant black and white keyboard, the bench, the rhythm of his hands hammering chords that turned into anthems. They remember the shows, the lyrics, the voice, and the swagger. But now, in 2025, they also remember the moment he faced something he could not simply sing his way out of. They see the man behind the legend, not stripped of glory but enriched by the honesty of struggle. They see how gracefully he handled it, how he told the world he had normal pressure hydrocephalus, how he admitted his balance was off, how he canceled shows to protect his health, how he allowed himself to be vulnerable in public without retreating into total silence. That takes a different kind of courage than the one needed to perform at Madison Square Garden. As we look at 2025, we don't just see a legend in trouble, we see a human being, still fighting, still creating, still anchored by family and home, even as his health forces him to adapt. That is perhaps the most inspiring note in the whole symphony, because the true essence of music isn't just melody. It's resilience, it's rhythm, it's the pulse that keeps going even when the body falters. And Billy Joel's pulse, metaphorically and literally, keeps going. Picture him in one of his waterfront homes on Long Island. The winter wind cuts across the bay. Inside, the walls hold decades of memorabilia, gold records, family photographs, framed magazine covers, and the occasional toy belonging to one of his children. The man who once spent months at a time on the road now spends mornings with coffee in a view of the water. Maybe the piano sits in a corner of the living room, still gleaming. Maybe the keys have cooled from their constant use. He might sit down, press a chord, and feel the vibration resonate through his hands. A reminder of who he has always been. He's been through phases before. The struggling Long Island musician who played bars for tips. The meteoric rise after Piano Man in the 1970s. The stadium tours, the marriages, the divorces, In each chapter, he's had to let go of something, an identity, a habit, a relationship to step into the next one. In 2025, the letting go is physical. He's letting go of the idea that he can tour endlessly without consequence. He's letting go of the fantasy that he's invincible. But what he's holding on to is just as important. His family, his sense of home, his artistic legacy. Family has always been a complicated but central part of Billy Joel's story. His marriages and relationships have been as public as his chart-topping songs. Christy Brinkley, the supermodel who starred in his Uptown Girl video, is still an icon herself. Together they brought Alexa Ray Joel into the world, a daughter who inherited not just talent but also the burden of comparison. Today, Alexa Ray is forging her own path as a singer, and Billy watches with pride and protectiveness. His current wife, Alexis Roderick, is the one who's been with him through this health crisis. They've built a life together that's more private, more grounded, more about everyday family moments than tabloid headlines. This is the family that gives him strength now. The family that makes breakfast feel as meaningful as a sold-out arena. If you think of legacy as something frozen in Time Awards on a shelf, a name in a Hall of Fame, you're missing the point. Legacy, for Billy Joel, is also about these quiet acts of continuity. It's about showing his daughters what resilience looks like. It's about taking care of his health so he can still be present for family dinners. It's about choosing to live rather than to perform, at least for a while. In the end, that might be more revolutionary than another tour. Imagine him walking across the property, the gravel crunching underfoot, a staff member or family member trailing behind, the wind catching his hair. Maybe he pauses to look out at the bay and thinks of the lyrics he wrote decades ago about moving out, about leaving the world of one generation for another. Now he's on the other side of that lyric. The veteran looking back at the restless young man he once was. Cars. The public knows less about them, but they're part of the iconography of celebrity life. While some stars flaunt hypercars and paparazzi bait rides, Billy Joel has been quieter about his vehicles. Perhaps a classic Mercedes in the garage, perhaps a practical SUV for family outings, perhaps something vintage he takes out on a Sunday just to feel the hum of the engine. In 2025, his cars are less about status and more about convenience, less about speed and more about comfort. They're symbols of a life lived on his own terms, like his music, and of course, the music itself. That's where the legacy roars the loudest. Think of New York's State of Mind. We didn't start the fire. Vienna. Only the good die young. These songs don't age the way people do. They're like postcards from different decades, all stamped with Billy Joel's fingerprints. When fans hear these songs in 2025, they're not just hearing melodies, they're hearing the man's life, his city, his heartbreaks, his dreams. That's why when news of his health struggles surfaced, fans reacted as if a family member were sick. Because in a way, he's been the soundtrack to their milestones. He's been the voice at their weddings, their breakups, their long drives at night. The documentary And So It Goes, released in 2025, adds another layer to the legacy. 5 hours across 2 parts. A sweeping, candid look at the man behind the music. We see footage of him in his early bar-playing days. We see the cracks to lawsuits, the betrayals, the business missteps. We see him with his children. We see him in interviews where he looks both tired and amused, aware of his own myth but also grounded enough to poke holes in it. He didn't even attend the premiere at Tribeca because of his health. And yet, in a way, the absence spoke louder than any red carpet appearance could have. It was the ultimate acknowledgement of the moment he's living in. Health struggle isn't just a plot point here, it's a character in the story. Normal pressure hydrocephalus sounds clinical, but what it really means is dizziness, trouble walking, cognitive fog. It's the body saying, we need to slow down. It's the universe reminding even the most successful among us that time is not infinite. But this condition is treatable. Shunts, therapy, adjustments. It's not a death sentence, but it's a life changer. And Billy Joel, at 76, is navigating that terrain in real time. The decision to cancel shows was hard. Fans were disappointed. But in the long run, it's about survival. It's about giving himself the best chance to stay present. But resilience has always been part of Billy Joel's DNA. In earlier decades, he battled depression, he survived career slumps, he rebuilt after financial setbacks. Each time, he came back, sometimes humbler, sometimes stronger, but always present. That's why his fans believe he can navigate this too. The health struggle becomes another verse in a very long song. And what about the future? Maybe he records from home. Maybe he writes songs no one else will hear, just for himself. Maybe he produces, or mentors. Maybe he spends his afternoons watching his children grow, his evenings watching the tide come in, his nights tinkering at the piano. There's no single right way to be a legend in the autumn of life. Billy Joel is writing his own script as he goes. The most striking thing about this phase is how it redefines success. Once, success meant sold-out tours, #1 hits, magazine covers. Now it means something quieter. Health, family, presence. Being able to walk steadily. Being able to sit at the piano without dizziness. Being able to laugh with his wife at breakfast. These are the victories of 2025, and they're no less worthy of applause. There's also something deeply American about this story. Billy Joel, the son of immigrants, born in the Bronx, raised on Long Island, becomes a symbol of the working-class kid who made it big, and even at the peak of luxury, he remains rooted in the landscapes of his youth New York. Long Island, the water, the small clubs. He never fully abandoned those origins. In his songs, you can still hear the accent of the kid from Hicksville. In his interviews, you can still catch glimpses of the guy who just wanted to play the piano and write songs that meant something. So, as we move deeper into 2025, Billy Joel's story is no longer just about chart performance or ticket sales. It's about a man living with a condition that forces him to reevaluate what matters. It's about a family pulling close. It's about properties that once symbolized success, but now symbolize retreat and reflection. It's about fans who grew up with him and are now themselves aging, seeing in his struggle a mirror of their own limitations. It's about legacy in the truest sense, not just what you leave behind, but how you live while you're still here. The real surprise is how inspiring it can be. In a culture that often discards artists when they show signs of age or vulnerability, Billy Joel stands as proof that you can remain beloved even when you're no longer bulletproof. You can tell the truth about your health. You can cancel shows. You can admit fear. And still, the fans will stand and sing your songs. Because in the end, the legacy is not just about what Billy Joel has done, but about what he is doing now. Confronting decline, but refusing to be defined by it. There's dignity in admitting vulnerability. There's power in saying, I may never be the same, but I'm still here. People will remember the songs. They'll remember the shows, the lyrics, the voice, but they'll also remember the moment he faced something he couldn't sing his way out of, and how gracefully he handled it. As we look at 2025, we don't just see a legend in trouble, we see a human being. Still fighting, still creating, still anchored by family and home, even as his health forces him to adapt. That is perhaps the most inspiring note in the whole symphony. Thank you for staying with me in this journey through Billy Joel's life in 2025. Disclaimer: the content in this video is based on publicly available information, media sources, and opinions. It is created for entertainment and educational purposes only. We do not claim or guarantee that every detail is 100% accurate.